All right, folks, welcome to another live Q&A. It is Monday night, and as always, we answer all of your questions. So if you have a question, put it in the comments. Eventually, we'll get to it. Don't be impatient. I know it takes sometimes a little while, but Jason is in the back room filtering through all the comments and getting the questions into the chat. And then, as always, we've got the production team here as the peanut gallery. We've got Ethan behind the control. Ben is actually editing, and I think Bo is watching the live. So he's getting stereo with bad lip sync. Yeah, we just came back from Vegas. So if you missed the event on Friday, we talked about it in community with Jillian. And that was a good show. We had a good time. Lots of people. We've seen, oh my God, so many people stop by the booth saying hi, saying they were students, either new students, future students, current customers, old customers, industry friends. We saw a bunch of folks. So that was good. We also did, the production team brought in the entire studio pretty much over there, and we had set up a nice room that had a cool background, and we recorded a ton of content for premium community. So super, super, super exciting. What else? That was it, really. Came home. Man, Friday I took a nap. Saturday I took a nap. I was just wiped out from this convention. So Jason and I, we drove back on Thursday night, got home around midnight, and yeah, just good fun. So for those of you that attended, thank you. Thank you for stopping by the booth, for saying hi. For those of you that came to the event that we had on Thursday as well, thank you. That was fun. I had a ton of fun. So, all right, let's say hi to a bunch of folks. We have Thorold Inspired, Fire Chief, Richard Hooker, a lot of familiar names in here. David George. Oh yeah, we have the trophy. We have, let me see. Roger, Curtis Warren, Yellow Rose Drone. What's going on? I Can Fly, Northern Drone Guy, Quattro Garza, Bob Rock, Old Deadeye. That's a good name. Will County Drone, Daniel. That's TJ75, Mark Richardson, Sheen Watkins, let's see, John Jackson, Corey, the usual. Everybody's here. Chris Brown, I see. Black Sheep, TJ Giggles, FPV, Mark De La Roca, After His Media. I see Vic. I don't see Jillian from the oh no, Jillian is here. Jillian B. J-Bo from the community. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. What is that? Oh yeah, this little thing. There is another thing that came out last week. This little thing right here. This is the Neo from DJI. It screams. It screams like if you thought the Avata was loud, this is worse. This is such a high pitch, really annoying actually. No, I'm not going to turn it on. It's super annoying. Especially indoors. I think outdoors is better, but boy, indoors, even outdoors, if you think you're going to get like stealthy with this, think again. It ain't stealthy. So cool little thing. I haven't gotten the chance to use it all that much. Vic got a copy and then give it to us to play with for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll send it back. But we tested it in the expo floor before everybody got there one morning on Thursday, and just had it follow us around. What I found really interesting was there's only 2 sensors at the bottom here. No obstacle avoidance, but yet it is actually able to avoid obstacles. So it has image analysis of sorts to do that, which I thought was cool. So, okay. I don't know what else to say about this drone. If you have questions about it, let me know. We'll see if we can answer them. But it's, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It takes off. Oh, I knew there was going to be a question about compatibility. Yes, it is. It's not compatible with the RCN1, RCN2, and RCN3, RC2, and then the Goggle 3. So Vic is sending the Utah images today if you want to print them. Yes, those were beautiful images, Vic. Thank you. Okay. Tasmel says, who beat you in go-kart racing? Ha! This is gold. No one beat me in go-kart racing. That's all I'm going to say. A few tried. 47 tried. Ethan is the one that came the closest. He gets second. Yeah, Bo just arrived and finished his last lap this morning. Billy Cal, who was very, very vocal about whipping my ass. Nope, you did not make it in the second bracket, I don't think. All bark, no play. That's right, Billy. So get to practice again. It was fun. It was a ton of fun. You put a bunch of A-type personalities around a track, and it got fun. Okay, let's get to the questions maybe. Let's get started. Fire Chief, by the way, next week you will have a new host because I will be on vacation. It's been a while since I've been on vacation, so I'm taking 10 days. My family's going to be here. My parents are coming in town, so it's going to be fun. I think Jason is going to be in there, and then Vic and Jason and Jillian will be on the community happy hour, and I think Jason is going to do a news update on Friday. So
I hope he does it on Wednesday.
Oh, on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, so it can be posted. We already have a ton of stories for it. So let's get started. Fire Chief says, won't be live, but could you answer this one for me? I'm looking at buying the DJI Mini 4 Pro Plus to fly under Part 107 and recreational. Will I have to register it with the FAA for both? So just register it under Part 107. That registration will be valid to fly under recreational rules as well. David George says, if the U.S. if the U.S. bans DJI, could we buy a drone in Canada and bring it back to Arkansas? Well, it depends. It depends on how the ban goes through. More than likely, if it goes through, more than likely it will be through the FCC channel, which means that the device will not get FCC approval in the United States. As such, if you buy the drone somewhere else and it's not FCC approved, technically you cannot fly it in the United States. Now, how would they know? Just like the same way the FAA knows if you're flying beyond visual line of sight or doing something stupid, they don't. They will know when there is a crash. And when there's a crash, if they find out it's a device that's not FCC approved, I don't know that anybody checks for that, but it could be an issue. So, and then getting insurance might be difficult, or getting insurance coverage might be difficult on a device that is not FCC approved, which is technically against the law. Sorry, I'm trying to reorganize this thing. There you go, so it's not in the way. Okay, so yeah, that would be the answer. But yes, technically you could buy one and then import it, but it just won't have FCC approval. Northern Drone Guy, why would I get a geofence warning if I wasn't near one on my controller? An old airport, maybe, or a heliport in the area, possibly. I don't know. That's hard to tell.
Hospital.
Hospital, yeah, hospital with a heliport. Maybe go check on the DJI map and see what they have it registered as in that area. Corey says, new subscriber, viewer of you guys' channel. Awesome. Can't thank you enough for posting this amazing content in the community. I had an honest question in response to what I get from wackadoos. How do you respond when someone sees you flying and implies that drones are just meant to spy? That's a good one. Two different ways. If they are willing to come look at your controller, invite them over and say, hey, let me show you what this looks like. And then show them what the drone, typical drone like this, looks like as you bring it closer to you. And tell them, if I want to get like a full body shot of you on the entire picture, this is how close the drone would have to be. And I think people will have a different perspective. I think people think drones are like in the spy movies where you have a 600x zoom and then from a mile away you can see, inside of their bedroom what they're doing. That's just not really how it works. So, yeah, help educate them. Also, the other thing that I like to tell them is you're really not that interesting that I want to spy on you, but that's only if they don't want to look at your screen. That's a good comeback. Any apps to tell me where TFRs are in place and active? So the TFR website for the FAA, tfr.faa.gov is a good place. Be careful because some TFRs, like the stadium VFR, are in effect, but they're not depicted on that chart because they're always going to be based on some criteria. So this is something we've been kind of not fighting, but discussing recently with the drone advocacy, the drone. Shit. What's the DAC? The Drone Advisory Council. Thank you. Well, council. Too many A's and too many D and A's. So, Drone Advisory Council, where we have a few people from this industry in that council, and we make recommendations to the FAA, and that's one of the recommendations we're working on. But yeah, the FAA website, tfr.faa.gov, is where I would go. Where do these new micro drones like the Neo and the X1 Pro Max that don't need a controller fall? Do I still need a commercial Part 107 certificate to use it for photos and videos on my YouTube channel if it's monetized? Yes, it's a drone. It flies in the airspace, so it does need to have Part 107. Absolutely. How often do you calibrate the IMU? Only when the drone tells you. I mean, in the past, it was every time you traveled, you kind of had to do it. That's not really the case anymore. So if you travel long distance, but yeah. Oh, Jillian is the one who instigated the go-kart question. The answer is no one. What are the possibilities for DFR BV loss waiver? DFR BV loss waiver. Would camera or radar be the best in your opinion to replace an actual person on a rooftop as a visual observer? Yes, it is possible. I think it's going to also be a bit more, well, I mean, DFR and BV loss have been possible with the right DAA, detect and avoid technology. So there are options out there. I don't know that I have enough time to talk about the details of all of that, Romy, but sensors on board the aircraft, sensors on the ground that detect aircraft in the area is going to be necessary for BV loss flying. DFR or not doesn't really matter. DFR, by the way, for those of you that don't know, drone as first responders. Yep. Next, Drone My Place Sensei. Funny name. Today's practice tests aren't covering some Part 107 questions. Lighting behind control station, intense lighting in area, PAVE, and foreign registration drone in USA and registered and more. I don't know what that means. I don't. Are you studying in the course and you saw questions? I don't know. I'm going to keep going, but please rephrase your question maybe so I can better understand what you're asking. Tina Anderson says flying near a major stadium when it's not even filled up, or near a TFR event, but the security team and the cop have forced us to land on several occasions. What should you do? It depends on where you're taking off and landing from. So if you're taking off and landing from their property, they can prevent you from taking off and landing from their property. If you're taking off from a public place and flying over the stadium and you're maintaining visual line of sight and following FAA rules, there's not much they can say. So ProFlight says, are there any updates on drones that might get a parachute attachment option? Yes, maybe. I think the most asked parachute right now is the Air 3. And I think I heard that somebody is talking about making one. I don't remember if I'm supposed to say who it is or not, so I'm not going to say it, but some of the manufacturers out there are talking about making one for that. So that's all I'm going to say. Next, my client does medical training for national parks forest. In the park, I photo these medical training for national park. Should he get a waiver from the NPS written in his contract for me to drone, or should I get the waiver? Well, either way, actually. Either way. I think either way, it would work, because then you would be able to fly in there. So if they get approval and they hire you to fly, then you're good. If you want to do it yourself, then you can also do that. Sorry, I had a brain fart for a second here. But yeah. Brian says, if I am taking pictures with a drone recreationally, can those pictures be sold after I get my Part 107? Currently taking your course to prep, but curious. Remember, it's all about the intent of the flight at the time of the flight. So if you took those pictures recreationally, and then later on when you get the 107 you want to sell them, then that's fine. That's not a problem. I used to be a UAS pilot for the Army. Should I take the exam or just try to take some practice exam? Well, there's a lot of questions in the test. I'll tell you the biggest topics is going to be regulation, which is going to be different from what you've done. And then it's going to be airspace, which is more than likely different than what you had in the Army. So airspace, charts, and regulation is going to need a little bit of work. You could study those on your own, but don't go and just take practice exam. That never results in anything good. Study, if anything, study on your own. See if you're able to do that. Take a couple practice exams. Be careful where you take the practice exams from. A lot of places have crappy questions that either are no longer valid or not updated or whatever it is. There was a big push initially with Part 107 with a lot of people that had questions on their website for free to attract traffic. They never kept up with them. They were incorrect in the first place because they had no idea what they were talking about. So there's a lot of really bad information out there. So just be careful with that. But yeah. Can I fly if there is a VDOT advisory in yellow on a loft? If it's just an advisory, you should be able to fly VDOT. I would have to see it to take a look at it, but you can send it to us at contact@pilotinstitute.com if you have a screenshot. But at first hand, I would say yes, you can fly. DJI Mini 3 Pro, is it going to be banned? We will have more information on this proposed ban by the end of the week or early next week. Do I need to pay another $5 to the FAA to move my drone from recreational registration to Part 107? So yes, anytime you do a new registration under Part 107, you do. With that being said, if you only have one drone and it was registered with the FAA and now you're flying recreationally and now you're flying under Part 107, you don't really have to do anything technically. It's a registration and it's good. It's when you start adding more to the mix, then that it becomes complicated. But if you want to just be clear on it, $5 for 3 years, and then do it on the FAA website. Next, surf in the city, Waikiki. Woo! Can you please explain flying higher than 400 feet if the radius, if above a structure or a cliff? Not cliff. So first off, this rule is only available under Part 107, not something that you can do recreationally. But if you are within a structure, man-made structure, tree doesn't count, man-made structure, and you are within 400 feet of that structure and within 400 feet of the top of it, then you can fly 400 feet on top of the structure. So, but you have to be within that. A cliff doesn't count. A cliff doesn't count. Zero Dead says, hey, today is the first time about DJI being banned in the US that you hear about it, I guess. I'm in Canada and wondering if this will happen in Canada as well. Also, are you able to go into more detail as to why this is happening? It depends on how useless your politicians are in Canada. And I'm not taking a stance on whether they are or not, but if you have the same crazy politicians that we have that get their pockets lined to pass regulation, then maybe you'll have the same problem eventually. But who knows? I guess, I don't know if AUVSI has any say in Canada, so you might be safe after all. But it's hard to say this without a straight face. But yeah. Hopefully not. Hopefully Canada comes to their senses. I have not heard of any other countries that are trying to do what we're trying to do in the United States, unfortunately. Next. And by the way, this is just a proposal for ban. It's not for sure yet. When do you think the next version of the Mini Pro, version number 5, will be released from DJI? Safe to buy a 4 Pro now, or any thoughts on certified refurbs? I haven't heard anything on a new DJI drone, a new DJI Mini version from DJI, so I don't know. I would not wait, quite frankly. The next thing we've heard about the Neo took a couple months, then it came out. We heard about the Air 3S, which should be out eventually. I don't know. We don't have any dates right now, but I haven't heard any Mini at this stage, so who knows? I was going to say something else. Oh, certified refurb. I think certified refurb is like, it depends on how. So I'll give you my input on this. I've bought a ton of gear certified refurb over the years, from computers to iPads to whatever, and I've never had a bad experience. Does it mean that your success will be the same? I don't know. But I've never had any bad experiences with certified refurb, especially when it comes directly from the manufacturer. So, yep. How can I include a picture in the comment if it is allowed? I do not think YouTube, which is Google, allows for pictures in the comments, unfortunately. Next, RJ says, how far from a dam? Different spelling, by the way. Do I need to be to stay legal? It depends if it's a critical infrastructure. So depends on your state, depends on quite a few things. But I would stay, well, yeah. That's a tough answer. It depends on your state. Go read the rules and find out if a dam is considered a critical infrastructure. Places like the Hoover Dam have different rules, like they have ground restrictions where you can take off and land, and even outside of that is difficult. So I'm going to say, if you're trying to do the Hoover Dam, don't do it. There's no real possible way of doing it legally unless you pay a lot of money. But yes. Next, I don't see any more questions. How is that happening? Usually we have a list of a ton of questions going down in there. So let me see if I can read more stuff. Any other questions? Leave them in the comments. I don't know what's going on here. Star Performer is asking about the accident on I-5 in Oregon at the end of August. Whatever happened with that, we shouldn't. The bottom line is this: whether or not the person was dead already doesn't change the fact that drones should not be flying near accidents. If there is an accident, don't take off with your drone. It will prevent helicopters from landing. Whether the person was already dead and it prevented somebody from getting there, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We should not be flying our drones and have respect for those that are on the side of the road and need help. So that's as clear as I can make it. Is the Neo a Class 1 drone? I don't know about classes in Europe. Classes in Europe, it's a Category 1 drone. Yes, it's sub 250 grams. It has prop guards, and if you are flying it under Part 107, you need to have a remote ID. It does not have remote ID included into it. Next thing, you can only and this is something that I'm sure a lot of people have not thought about. You cannot fly your drone over people recreationally. Period. Categorized drone is a Part 107 rule. You cannot say this is a Category 1 drone and I'm going to go fly over people recreationally. 44809, which is the regulation 49 USC 44809, is only does not allow to fly over people. So yeah, this can only be flown over people if you are under Part 107 and if you put a module on top. You notice we have two little strips right here. We were testing it earlier with a light on top of it and a remote, the smallest remote ID module, and it still flies. It doesn't really fly well. Well, it flies okay. It's not super fast going up and down with the added weight on top of it, but it does fly. So yes, that would be a Category 1 Debonair. I'm not sure if you meant Category 1 or Class 1. As far as classes from Europe, I don't know what it does. And by the way, I'm going to try to remove those prop guards because I'm pretty sure Vic told us DJI said we can't take the prop guards off. But that's a lie. Ha! They come off. Well, those are not. Yeah, these are prop guards. So you would, I mean, this is exposed parts that can cause laceration. So that does not qualify for Category 1. You'd have. Yeah, but it's not Cat 1. To be Cat 1, I'm talking about. So yeah, don't remove those. Otherwise, it's not Cat 1. That's my interpretation, by the way. So. Next, how far away from, and I answer that, why hasn't DJI released the SDK for the Air 3 and 3 Pros, and when will they? They will never. They won't do that because it takes away sales from their enterprise. I've argued with one of their executives who was very snobby with me at the DJI conference a couple years ago. Did not appreciate his tone at all. Basically what he said is, well, if you want to do this, just buy an enterprise drone. That's what he said. And I said, well, whatever. So no, they will not be releasing the SDK for those drones anymore. It sucks. How to stay updated with the drone ban? Follow us. Click the follow button right there, somewhere down there, and we will keep you updated every Friday. Friday news updates at what is it, 5 a.m. East Coast time, right? Every week. 5 a.m. our time, 8 a.m. East Coast. I'm sorry, 5 a.m. our time, 8 a.m. East Coast every Friday. Is the Neo Class 1? I answered that. Is it worth taking Part 107 if drones are getting banned? Drones are not getting banned. Let's take a step back here. Drones are not getting banned, okay? Taking 107 is still required if you want to fly for non-recreational purposes. Yes, it is still worth doing that to stay within the regulation. Drones are not getting banned. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. Good question about trading gear. Any suggested groups on Facebook or other sites that do some DJI trading? Yeah, be careful with the Facebook groups and selling gear. Only go to groups that are legit. And I think most groups these days don't allow for gear sale. If you are one of our students and you're a paid student, meaning you have a paid course with us, we have in our community a page to do selling and trading of equipment. And the reason we did it for only people that pay for the course is because that way we can verify that they're real. And if there is any kind of scam, then at least we have some information on them. Regarding my stadium question earlier, they claim the stadium controls the airspace. Ooh, they do not. And that we have to land. Police are saying this to placate the stadium. Is there an advocacy group to talk to? Yeah, absolutely. Vic is in the chat. I'm sure Vic is going to give his email address if he wants to. Otherwise, you can email us, Tina, at contact@pilotinstitute.com. We'll get with Vic. This is what the DSPA, the Drone Service Provider Alliance, does. And then tell us in detail which police department you were talking to. We'll gladly reach out to them and help them make sure that they're not misguided. Bill says, I registered my M4P, so Mavic 4P or Mini 4P. Mavic 4 Pro. Well, that could be a Mini 4 Pro. Is it okay to unregister it and be legal recreational flying? Okay, so it's got to be the Mini. Yes, you can absolutely unregister. So you don't really unregister the drone. On the recreational, the recreational side of the drone zone, there is a listing where you put all of your lists. It's called the inventory. If you added it to the inventory, simply delete it from the inventory, remove the sticker that you have on it, and it's no longer registered. Now keep in mind, if you put any accessories on top of that drone to take it over to 50, even recreationally, you would need to have a registration for it. But if not, no. And then you would need registration. You would need, remote ID. Thomas says, does the Neo work with a controller and no goggles, or does it require goggles? It does not. You can have the RCN2, RCN3, which is the new controller, which looks just like the RCN2. James from the community was telling us that the battery is smaller. That's essentially the difference with the RCN3. So it's a bit cheaper, smaller battery. But yes, it works with those two. It works with the RC2, which is the one with the screen, and then it works with the Goggle 3, which are the ones that came with the Avata 2. My God, so many freaking numbers. We had an interesting discussion with DJI at the conference early in the morning when we talked about the compatibility of these controllers, because it drives me nuts. This is one of the questions we get the most as soon as a new drone comes out. One of the first question is it compatible with X controller? And I'm not bashing the question, by the way. I love that you guys are asking these questions, but DJI does a poor job in my eyes with getting drones compatible with all the different controllers that they have available. Even if they can technically be compatible, they don't make them compatible. And the DJI rep wasn't even sure why. It's feedback that they've brought to their engineers. So if anybody is engineer at DJI and is listening to this, please make these more compatible with existing controllers. You'd get more people buying probably different controllers, and you just have a better product. So that's all I'm going to say. Drone My Place Census says, how far in advance do organization place TFRs? What happens when you have a planned shoot 3 months and a random TFR happens because the governor visits? I don't think the governor gets TFRs in place. VIPs usually do. It might, actually. He or she might. But that's beyond the point. TFRs just pop up. So if you had a plan for 3 months, unfortunately, you're going to have to reschedule your shoot, which sucks. But that's just part of it. It's part of being in the airspace. What is happening today with the U.S. Senate hearing? I don't know if it's necessarily today. It's this week. I don't know that it's today. As soon as we hear more about this, we will certainly let you know. But yeah, I think from the information that I got, I don't think it was today. I think it's this week. Todd, I don't know how to say that. Aside from flying over people, can you fly an FPV drone within a crowd, say between heads and feet in a crowd spaced out? Yes, sure. So so let me say this. Flying over people is defined as at any time if the drone is over any part of the human body. So assume that this thing is flying, not over people, over people. Still over people, not over people, okay? So I hope I'm making the example. It's fairly straightforward. But if this thing moves forward, because physics, if it fails, if the motors fail, it's going to keep moving forward, potentially hitting someone. Where you meant to be turning, the drone is going to continue forward because you don't have control of it anymore, and then hit someone. Well, at that stage, when you hit them, you were over them for a split second until you hit them in the face. So can you fly between people's legs? Yeah, you probably can. Should you be flying at head's height with the drone? I don't recommend it because, again, if something fails, you're going to hit them even though you weren't flying over them at the time. So be careful with that. Your insurance provider might not like it as well and deny the claim because you were technically flying over people. So, yeah, Ben is looking at me. So, oh, good. Surf in the City says, do you know anything about Flight Hub 2? If I purchase the annual subscription for incident management, do other agencies need a Flight Hub 2 subscription to participate? I don't know the detail on that, unfortunately. I don't know if you can share I don't know what level of subscription is needed in order to share. That's a question for DJI directly, I think. Orange Oos says, did Elise Stefanik post her review of the DJI Neo yet? No, I heard she's still testing it. So, what? Encon says, I'm trying to think of something smart ass to say, but that's all I got. Without being a dick. What would you recommend for ortho or photogrammetry practice for a new pilot? There is a lot of empty land near me, but would that be sufficient to practice? Really anything, quite frankly. Your house, any plot of land that you see where there is nobody else. Trees are hard though to do ortho around, but anything that you find, quite frankly, is good for practicing. Yeah.
So this is Ethan. I've done a ton of mapping. One thing that I would recommend is practice in a place with differing elevations and practice dividing your map up. So if you have one place that is a lower elevation and then maybe you have a mountain, maybe you want to create your mission everything except the mountain first and then fly the mountain separately. And then also practice doing some things manually, like a pitched roof or a facade. Practice doing that manually, and those will get you set up for success.
Good answer. Well, I wanted to go back. So yeah, there's a bit of discussion, by the way, in the chat about the bill and what's going on right now. So it's in the House, by the way. So House, Senate, two different things. They both have to pass, both in the House and the Senate, to be considered to go to the president's desk to sign. So right now it's in the House. The temperature is that it is likely going to pass in the House. So that would not be a big surprise, but it doesn't mean that it's passing on the Senate side. So it's winning on one side, but it's not. It's winning a battle, but not winning the war. If you understand what I mean. So if you see information from people saying it passed in the House, it's the end of the world, we're going to lose all DJI drones, that is not true. The House is only one part of the equation. Think about the House as more like the noobs, okay? The professionals work in the Senate. So it's not over until it's over. Next question. Belzorium says, I'm following your YouTube, your video course, and you say that one can't really use MM and D-Log to ensure a good exposure, or did I misunderstand? And that's so, how do you select an ND filter? Yes, okay, so D-Log is weird because each log profile has a different correct exposure. Ethan, what do we expose? We don't really do a ton of log on these cameras now, but what did we expose before on the Panasonic?
On the BGH ones, we usually do +1, +2, and then in the field, it's +1, +2. And I shoot for like the Mavic 3, I shoot +1, and that'll give me enough information. Stick that LUT on there, and then color to taste.
Yep. So you have to more, and the number that Ethan gave you +1, +2, that's +1 on your MM. That depends on the log that you're using. So that was for Panasonic cameras. Typically it is around +1. So you got to do a little bit of testing. Start with +1. Usually also today's drones have the ability to put the LUT inside of your controller, so you can see a pre-LUTed, if that makes any sense, if that's even a word, a pre-LUTed version of your footage, and there you'll be able to kind of see if it's good or not. By the way, I see our friend Cal Miller is in the chat. So Cal, good to see you last week. But if you see information from Cal, you can take it as gospel. He, especially when it comes to GCPs and any kind of mapping. So he's the expert in that world. What else? I emailed my senator. Okay. Yeah. I emailed my senator. So I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to that question about the exposure. So to select the proper ND filter, put the ND filter on here that gives you +1 on the reader, and that should be pretty good. Riker says, I emailed my senator about it, and she basically told me that I was dumb and she knows best. That's politicians for you. The lobby was stronger. Next. I'm interested in multicam drone video idea. Interesting. If I leave a drone hovering and put down the RC and fly the second drone around, does that count as operating more than one? Yes, you would be. There's got to be a PIC. There's got to be a pilot in command of each drone. If you're holding the controller, you put it down, somebody's got to be PIC of that flight. So you can't just have two airplanes up in the air at the same time. If you have a second pilot, then they can be in there. But yeah. I see Ray Kelly's here. What's up, Ray? Good to see you. Next question. I'm interested in, okay, I just said that. Is there a story about the Band-Aid on the right elbow, maybe kart racing? I wish it was that cool. The story is that 2 minutes before getting into the van to drive back to Prescott, I checked to make sure the ladders on the roof were attached correctly. So I reached out over the roof and then I hit the side of the roof rack that doesn't have an end cap. And so it dug a nice little trench inside of my forearm right here. And it was really painful. So, and all I could find was an old towel in the van that I wrapped around and taped around my arm for the next 4 hours. So I'm sure it's probably going to get infected and I'll lose my right arm pretty soon.
All right. You can still fly drones with one hand?
Yeah. Heck yeah. Stitches, none, but for a split second, I kind of thought that I was going to need stitches, but there's really nothing in here. It's just muscle. So funny. Godzilla. Shit, that was a much better answer, Northern Drone Guy. That was a much better answer. Godzilla did it. All right, I'm interested. No, I said that. And by the way, yes, Band-Aids are funny color because I have kids and that's all we have in the house is kids Band-Aids. So this was the least colorful that I could find. Any thoughts on if you can keep on using DJI drones if they are banned or can buy new ones? At this stage, the proposals that we've seen are only for banning new models. So you would still be able to buy existing models in the store until they run out, but you would not be able to buy new models if it goes through. And yes, it was totally Godzilla. I didn't want to put him on the spot, but yeah. An okay boomer. We need more of those. I need some still and videos for use in our company website, and we'd rather they be captured by our pilots than use stock footage. Good idea. What hazard in radio frequency and EMP interference should be considered when using a DJI drone to shoot communication towers, power distribution system, and other generators to be aware of? There will be definitely interference. I would recommend that you have it in a way that the drone lands if you're pretty close to it, if you lose control, rather or have it RTH, return to home if you want to with enough backup, but just be ready for that in case you lose something. The reason I said land is because if you fly underneath the power line, which you probably should try to avoid, and then all of a sudden it loses signal and it climbs up and hits the power line, that can be pretty bad. So if you plan on flying higher, then you can have it set up to RTH further away from the power lines. But yeah, there's always a possibility of interference. Should I buy a house or a Skydio? Well, it depends. A house might be cheaper. That's all I'm going to say. I want to start. That's a good joke. That's a good lineup for a good joke. Thank you for that. I want to start my own drone company, aerial photo and video, search and rescue, aerial surveying and mapping. Careful with the word surveying. Any recommendation on where to start after I get my Part 107? Yeah, D, we've got it all. We've got all three of these courses available on the platform. So I'm not here to sell courses. I'm here to answer questions. But in this case, we have mapping classes 4 of them put together with a bundle where you can get all 4 of them. It'll teach you from everything from the beginning all the way to the end. I saw that Cal was asking about having a digital twin and 3D flight planning and processing. Yeah, we have information about that in the course. And then search and rescue, we have a beautiful course shot by our friend Cal Nordforce. I was looking at Cal Miller. I was going to say Cal Miller, but no, Cal Nordforce in Utah. Cal was at the trade show as well. And then we have also a class on photo and video with Vic and Billy Kyle and Ken Dono. So it's all in the same place, all in the same roof. Benjamin says, if I have lens approval for up to 100 feet and that's strictly from ground level, or does the rule if there is a tall structure nearby apply? It does not. So that's a great question, Benjamin. If when you get your approval, that's it. That's above the ground, 100 feet above the ground. You cannot add it to the height of any objects around. That's it. Stephen Peck says, I've tried to fly an inexpensive toy drone and it's almost impossible to control. Should these be banned? They should be banned because of the bad user experience. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, A2D. Okay, I said ATOD earlier. I'm sorry. Oh, you got it. I didn't get it. I don't know. A2D. I'm so sorry. A2D, media and design, as in analog to digital. That's awesome. My girlfriend and I are having a debate. She says that you have a Brazilian accent. I said Canadian. You both lose. Take a shot. No, definitely not Brazilian. Canadian would be fairly close, but no, I grew up in France. So, but I get Canadian a lot because it's the closest thing to my accent. Vic says a house would fly better than the Skydio. I'm quoting people here. Just ask the New York Police Department. I don't know what that is about. What if an American company bought hardware license from DJI and made the software? Would this drone be banned? Well, that's kind of the story right now with Enzu Robotics. So the politicians have them in the crosshair because they're providing a great quality product that's not made in China by DJI, but they still don't want to see it there because it competes against the people that are paying their bills. So, is the current DJI 4G dongle that's sold in China compatible with the Mavic 3T? You mentioned 4G available from Mavic Enterprise, yet couldn't find information on the US version. Yeah, it should be. It should. I don't see any reason why it would not be valid for the thermal as well. The thermal is an enterprise drone with the thermal capability, so I don't see. Actually, Kyle might be able to answer that question. Cal says, what's the best, most open BVLOS waiver open to public safety that you have seen? The most open BVLOS waiver that we've seen. Interesting. For outside of public safety. I think so far, I got to think about that for a second. BVLOS. We've seen, and I can't remember the name of the company now, but well, they had a BVLOS to fly, and Jason might remember, and I see him coming.
You're delayed, but
yeah.
you said outside of
Yeah, outside of public safety. Who was
FPV.
an FPV?
VIX, FPV, loss.
No, we saw someone recently that has a BVLOS waiver without VOs, and they can fly beyond visual line of sight without VOs, which was the first time we ever seen that. That's the delivery company that 2 of them get it at the same time. Yeah, so I would say Cal, and that's under Part 135 because it's drone delivery. So, but under Part 91, I would say, well, under Part 107, that would be Vic has a waiver to fly FPV without a VO, and then we have ours to fly beyond visual line of sight with a VO, but I haven't really seen anything more crazy than that. So that's just from my knowledge. But yeah, under Part 135, that would be flying beyond visual line of sight without a VO to deliver packages. Oh, I'm really bad at reading names, I guess, because orange juice is how you're supposed to say it. I said orange juice. Ooh, it's like reading those custom plates, right? Custom license plate. You're trying to figure out what they're trying to say. Vic says NYPD canceled their Skydio contract because their drone kept crashing. Yikes. BEM1962 says, are there different qualities in propellers? Yes, not all propellers are created equal. I will keep saying what I've been saying for years now, which is stick with OEM propellers. The manufacturer spends a lot of R&D money, especially companies like DJI, to create these propellers to be the most efficient on the motors, on everything. So I would say just stick with those props. There's no reason to go anywhere else. They might be a bit more expensive, but I mean, yeah. All Out Aerial says, best way to screen mirror RC2 controller to a larger screen. RC2 controller. Let me think about that for a second. Best way to do it, personally, what I would do is I don't think you can plug into the USB-C in the bottom. If you have a USB-C to HDMI, I don't think it works. I think we've tested that and said that it doesn't work. The way that I would do it is I would have your phone, if you have an iPhone, I'm sure there is equivalent on Android, but I'm not an Android guy. I would have a little Apple TV or a TV that's compatible with AirPlay, and I would AirPlay the footage from your drone to the TV. That's the way I would do it. So RCN2. Oh, you said RC2. Oh. I don't think the RC2 can do it either. I think the RC2 has a screen, and it doesn't have an HDMI out. The Pro version has the RC Pro has it, or the old Pro controller, whatever that was called. Those have HDMI out. The RC2 does not, and I don't think a USB-C to HDMI works from our testing. And you can't use AirPlay because it's an Android platform. I don't know if there is an Android app that well, no, you can't install apps on that. Unfortunately, I think you're SOL on this one to do that unless you upgrade to the the Pro, the version that has an HDMI. Can you run two versions of Go? No, I don't think you can plug it to a phone. If you can use, okay, that's a good thought, Ethan, is plug in the RC, the USB-C at the bottom to your phone, run DJI Fly on your phone to see if it will transfer the footage, and then use that and do what I said, which is AirPlay. That might work, but I don't know. Yeah, I know that Samsung phones can do it, and I know Android has the equivalent to AirPlay, but you can't install app on the RC2. It's locked. So, yep. Next, are there off-the-shelf parts available and made in the US or just not China that could be used to completely construct a drone with the same basic abilities as a DJI Enterprise level drone? I'm going to say no, but you got to think about a drone is more than just parts, right? It's the ecosystem that goes with it to fly the drone. So there's not, I know that for a fact, there's not enough parts made in the US that you can use to make an equivalent drone. Are there parts that are made outside of China to make drones? Yes, Parrot does that, for example. Some of their drones have no parts from China, but that's, I guess, the answer to that. Any knowledge of anyone working on putting out an FPV drone on the Blue UAS list? The only people that would do that would be Brink, but I don't know if they're actively trying to put that on the Blue UAS. But if they do, they would be the ones. Is using the Neo or any other drone in follow me mode without controller be an RPSC violation under Part 107? That is a great question. So I have been meaning to go back to the actual regulation. We had a discussion with the FAA where one FAA person did not seem to be extremely bothered by the idea of doing that when I mentioned it, but I don't recommend it. As far as it 100% against the FAA regulation, I'm going to have to go back and dig up because I know that question is going to come up again. It's come up in the past, but
Had this conversation
right.
too.
Yeah, we
Let me
did.
tell you.
Well, they weren't really concerned about it, and they said it's not a violation of Part 107.
So this is Jason here. What the FAA told me was that under Part 107, you have to have the ability to direct the drone. You do not have to have direct control of the drone.
Yes. So that kind of goes back to the ability to see the drone versus the ability to always be in control of to always look at the drone. So yeah, that's kind of the catchphrase. So we'll have to find the exact regulation that it's in. That's Vic, I disagree. Vic says the Neo in follow mode is a violation of VLOS, not watching the drone. You'll have to watch the drone. Well, if you're okay, so I'll add up to that because I do agree, Vic, with what you just said. So remember that 107.31 is the regulation for beyond visual line of for visual line of sight. You have to be able to see the drone, but at all times there's also got to be someone who's looking at the drone. So if you're on your bike going downhill and the drone is following you, you're not doing that. So in this case, you would be breaking the rules of that. Now, if you have a visual observer that follows you on the bike at the same time and they're looking at the drone, then you would technically be okay. Again, it's kind of like as long as you can turn around and see the drone, then you'd be fine. Would you want to do that? Probably not. So it kind of goes back. We had those discussions back in the days with when Skydio came up with the X2 because there was a lot of talks about this same exact issue. So, yep, with a VO it's legal. Without a VO it's illegal. I agree with that. What you said, Vic. And yes, the Neo would need remote ID if flown outside. Correct. Scott says, ban question, you mentioned it might apply to new models. I'm wondering about the Infrastructure Act project. Not familiar with that. Any caution about existing drones banned for those specific types of projects? I would have to take a look at that, Scott. I'm guessing you're talking about maybe the restrictions that there are right now on not being able to use Chinese-made drones for critical infrastructure inspections. In which case, yes, I would agree with that, but yeah. VLOS does not mean that you have to be constantly looking at the drone. It means that somebody needs to be able to see the drone at all time. Read 107.31 Alpha and Bravo, both of them have to be put together. Does my Avata have the ability to fly at night? I'm in the woods in northern Maine and would like to try getting pictures of the aurora. The Avata is probably not going to be the best drone for doing night footage. The sensor is pretty small, and I don't know that you're going to get great footage. No drone really out there is great to get that. The aurora with a drone might be okay if you have enough light. But I would use, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, you can try. But yes, it can technically be flown at night. But remember that you're not going to see much flying around without more. Infrastructure Act forbids Chinese drones from being used on those projects. Yeah, okay, so that's what I thought. Thank you, Vic. Whew. All right. Belzorium says, I hope my washer and dryer combo is not sending critical and confidential data to the Chinese government. Never know. Never know. Okay. Whew. Vic says, Greg agrees with me. I can sleep easy tonight. I agree with you 99.9% of the time, Vic. Except when you say that the Neo needs to have remote ID from the factory. All right, end of the show. All right, I think that's it. Thank you all for watching. Like I said, next week, we're still going to have the shows as usual, even though I'm gone. Jason will be in filling the shoes and whoever else when they want to come in. Vic will be joining him on Friday for Vic, you just get nominated for the happy hour in the community. Also, we have a big announcement coming next Monday. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel. We've got something cool that we've been cooking. So keep an eye on that. And that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching as always. And we'll see you next time.